Welcome students to the series of lectures for CFA and FRM preparation. And today's lecture is a continuation video of the last uploaded video. We were discussing the performance evaluation, the topic of performance evaluation, and specifically for whom? For portfolio manager. Why we are doing evaluation of portfolio manager's performance? The reason is we want to understand, number one, how the portfolio manager has outperformed the benchmark portfolio or not. Had he outperformed the overall market or not? Does the performance of the portfolio manager has some skills, or is it just pure luck? So we are trying to understand that. Is it luck or is it skill? We are trying to understand if the portfolio manager performance is better than other portfolio manager. And we also want to understand that what should be the payout of the portfolio manager, which is the bonuses or the performance fees. And for that, we are trying to evaluate the performance of the portfolio manager because of these 4 to 5 reasons. In the last session, we discussed about the Sharpe ratio, Treynor ratio, information ratio, Sortino ratio. And today we'll start the discussion with the capture ratio, then we'll move to drawdowns and then appraisal ratio, and that will end the discussions of the ratios and the drawdown. And in the next session, we'll enter into a model which helps us to understand the portfolio manager returns. It will help us to attribute the portfolio manager returns into different factors. And you will see the hint of that in the appraisal ratio also. Okay, with that, let's first deep dive into capture ratio and then drawdown. So, at a very high level, let's not enter into the formula of the capture ratio. First of all, what are the different values the capture ratio will throw? And based on that value, I should interpret that what it means. So if the capture ratio will throw a value which is greater than 1, you will say the person is, or the portfolio manager is a good portfolio manager. He is outperforming the market. However, if the ratio throws a number which is less than 1, then the portfolio manager is a bad manager. It is underperforming the market. And if it is equal to 1, then it is average. Portfolio manager does not have an extraordinary skill, and it is better to invest in the market rather than giving a performance fees or a fees to manage the portfolio to a portfolio manager. Okay, so until unless the capture ratio of a portfolio manager is not greater than 1, you will not give your portfolio to be managed by a portfolio manager. If the value is greater than 1, we also say that it highlight convex return or positive asymmetric return, the return where the positives are in our favor. So positive asymmetric return, more positive return or more greater return than the benchmark. So therefore we call it as a convex return. And if the capture ratio throws a value which is less than 1, then we'll say that it is a negative asymmetric return, more negative return, and concave return. Now, I have just stated that what you will do if you get a value of the capture ratio as greater than 1, equal to 1, or less than 1. But we haven't discussed anything about capture ratio, so let's deep dive into capture ratio. The capture ratio formula is simply how the portfolio manager capturing the upside movement of the market divided by how the portfolio manager is capturing the downside movement. So therefore, it is calculated as upside capture divided by downside capture. Okay, let's understand what would be the different possible value of the capture ratio in different scenarios. So scenario one. So in scenario one, the market has given me a return of 5%, but the portfolio manager has given me a return of 6%. It's not 8%, 6%. Okay. So 6% upon 5% is how much? 1.2. That is the upside capture. The portfolio manager has outperformed the market, and the outperformed is near about 120 times. 120 times than the market. So 1.2. The ratio is 1.2. The market return is negative 5, and the portfolio manager has given lesser return than the market in the terms of magnitude, which is a good thing in the bad market, but the return is minus 4%. Market is doing poorly, very badly. Everything is falling. Market is giving a return of minus 5%. The portfolio manager is also giving negative return, but less than the market. You want your portfolio manager to safeguard your investment in the bad times. So how much he's capturing in the downside movement of the market. So downside capture. So this is the portfolio manager return and this is the market return. So minus 4 upon minus 5, 0.8. This was the portfolio manager return. This was the market return. So again, I'm saying this is the portfolio manager return. This is the market return. So upside capture or downside capture has the same formula. Portfolio manager return or portfolio return divided by the market return. Portfolio manager return or portfolio return divided by the market return. You got the ratio of 1.2 and 0.8 for upside capture and downside capture. That are individual capture in the upside market and the downside market. But we are interested in capture ratio, which is upside capture divided by downside capture. So in net, it would be 1.2 divided by 0.8, which will give me 1.5. That is the capture ratio. Is it greater than 1? Yes, it is greater than 1. And it is greater than 1. And we have seen that the portfolio manager is beating the market even in the good days and the bad days. And that's what we expect from a portfolio manager. And that's why the capture ratio is greater than 1, highlighting a good portfolio manager. And see, the returns are positively asymmetrical return. It's positively asymmetrical return. If this would have been a symmetrical return, then if I'm getting 6% here, I would have received minus 6% in the downside market. It's not symmetric, it is asymmetric. During the good days, portfolio manager is giving more times return than the market. In the bad days, the portfolio manager is giving less times return than the market, 0.8 only, not even 1. So that highlight a good portfolio manager. Let's understand when the portfolio manager capture ratio would be 1 and when I can say it is a symmetric payoff or symmetric cash inflow or symmetric returns. Okay. So scenario 2, if the market return is 5% and portfolio manager also gave me 5%. So the upside capture is 1. The market return is minus 4% and the portfolio manager also gave me minus 4%. Why to invest with a portfolio manager? Directly invest in the market. However, the downside capture and upside capture both is giving me 1. And if I divide 1 by 1, which is give you 1, which is the final capture ratio. Okay. Now, if in the same scenario, if I take one example where the capture ratio is equal to 1, if I say that I am about to receive a symmetric return from the portfolio manager, even in that case, it's not any way better to invest with the portfolio manager. Let's see with the example. If the market return is 5% and the portfolio manager gave me minus 6%, sorry, positive 6%. And if the market return is 5% negative and the portfolio manager again gave me minus 6%. So the ratio would be 6 upon 5, that is 1.2. Here the ratio would be minus 6 upon minus 5, that is 1.2. And the capture ratio at the end would be 1.2 upon 1.2. See, I'm receiving what? Symmetric return in the good days and the bad days. And therefore, the capture ratio is 1, which is representing an average portfolio manager. Not good, not bad. Average portfolio manager. You could have directly invested in the market instead of investing with a portfolio manager. Now, scenario 3, if the market is giving me a return of 5% and the portfolio manager gave me 4%, lesser than the market. So the upside capture is 4% divided by 5%, that is 0.8. However, if the market return is negative 4% and the portfolio manager gave minus 6%, the market is falling, but your portfolio is falling more. The ratio is 1.2. The capture ratio is upside capture, that is 0.8, and downside capture, that is 1.2. So the net is 0.67. You will never ever decide to choose this portfolio manager, which has a capture ratio of less than 1. What is the meaning of capture ratio less than 1? The portfolio manager will perform lesser than the market in a good days and worse than the market in the bad days. Why anyone on the planet would decide to go with a portfolio manager with such historical performance? Will not, or such historical capture ratio. So that was the overall discussion of the capture ratio. The simple formula of the capture ratio is upside capture divided by the downside capture, and individual capture is the return of the portfolio divided by the return of the market in the good days and in the bad days. That's it. Okay. The next is appraisal ratio. If you try to understand appraisal ratio, you can start with information ratio, which says that you do active return upon active risk. But the definition of active return and active risk in appraisal ratio is very different. What is an information ratio? Information ratio, it is very simple, plain vanilla mathematics. But in appraisal ratio, it is statistical measure. It is a pure statistical measure which comes from regression. So what you do, you first break down or try to identify that your portfolio return can be decomposed with the help of these factors, say the market factor, small minus large, value factor, growth factor, momentum factor, whatever factor. Okay. So you have first decomposed your portfolio, or you can say you can attribute your portfolio return into these factors. Then you perform a regression. When you perform the regression, you will find the return of the portfolio can be explained with the help of alpha or beta naught plus beta 1 into factor 1, beta 2 into factor 2, beta 3 into factor 3, beta 4 into factor 4, beta 5 into factor 5, and there would be some error term which you cannot explain. When you complete this regression, then only you can calculate appraisal ratio. The alpha, the excess return that any factor cannot explain, that is alpha. Okay. That is your alpha. So when you do the regression, you will get your beta naught. That is your alpha. And definitely in every forecasting with the help of this regression, there would be error. The standard deviation of that error is the active risk. So alpha is the active return and standard deviation of the error term from the regression is your active risk in the appraisal ratio. So it's not straightforward. If you really want to simplify this, let's use CAPM model. What is CAPM model? CAPM model says that the return of the portfolio can be explained by a factor. The factor is market factor. So I'll do RF plus RM minus RF into beta. So the portfolio return can be explained with the help of this regression equation. This is the regression equation only. But actually, when you calculated the return of the portfolio, the actual portfolio return and the portfolio return that should come from this regression, this is a regression only, which is CAPM regression minus RF plus beta into Rm minus Rf, the return predicted by the factor. The difference between the two is alpha. The difference between the two is alpha. Okay. Now, how to get the standard deviation of the error term? First of all, the standard deviation of the portfolio can only be because of two reasons. Only be because of two reasons. One, the standard deviation of the market into beta and plus the error in forecasting. The error in forecasting. You cannot have standard deviation of RF because standard deviation of RF is zero. So that is what is written here. That is what is written here. The standard deviation of the portfolio return can only be explained by the standard deviation of the market into beta plus the standard deviation of the error term. And this is your active risk. And this is your active return, which you put down into the formula of appraisal ratio. That is appraisal ratio. Now we'll try to understand drawdown. Now in drawdown, we have to understand only two things. What is the maximum drawdown and what is the drawdown duration? Maximum drawdown in a very simple term is the peak value minus trough value. So first let's understand what is maximum drawdown. So take these are the months and these are the portfolio value in these months. Can you identify a peak and a trough in a combination, peak and a trough? So it is 80, it's 100 maximum value, then it is falling, 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 and this is the lowest value. Can I say this is the peak value and this is the trough value? The maximum value and the lowest value 80. The difference between the two is what? 20%, that is your maximum drawdown. That's it. Now the question is 100 minus 80, that is 20, that is the maximum drawdown. But the question is why we are interested in maximum drawdown? Because we want to understand what is the maximum possible loss. For example, you invested in this fund or this portfolio in the month of Feb when it was at peak. And in the month of June, you have taken out your investment. So you will incur the maximum loss. So what is the possible maximum loss due to the incorrect investment decision that you have made based on the timing? If you would have invested in January and would have taken money out in February, you would have achieved a return which would be $20 or more than 25%, right? 80 to 100 is what? 25%, because 20 upon 80 is 25%. But because of your timing, you invested in February and taking out money in 80, taking out money in June, that is 80. That's why you have incur a maximum loss. And we want to know what is the maximum possible loss that a portfolio manager can do or an investor can do just because of timing problem, the issues with the timing. I don't know how to time the market, and that's why I would take such decisions. So that is maximum drawdown. Now, what is drawdown duration? Drawdown duration says what is the recovery time, total time to recover your peak value, to recover your peak value. So your peak value was 100. The first peak value was 100. Then it started falling, falling, falling. Now we have to identify when the value will cross 100. That is the month of October. So first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. Eighth month. So the duration to wait to recover your initial investment is what? 8 months. That is your drawdown duration. So we understood capture ratio, we understood appraisal ratio, and we understood the maximum drawdown and drawdown duration. In the next session, we'll try to understand that how we can break down a portfolio return into different factors. We got a glimpse in the appraisal ratio, but in the real world, how people decompose a portfolio return into different known macroeconomic factor. Okay. With that, I'll pause here. Thank you. Have a nice day.